أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. أشهد أن عليا ولي الله. أشهد أن عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. حي على خير العمل. حي على خير العمل. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi alladhi kana mawjudan qabla hudusil ashya' wa yabqa ba'da fana'il ashya'. Tafarrada bil wali bil uliyai wal kidam وبسم كل شيء ما عداه بالفناء والعدم كما كان أذ شانه كل شيء حالك إلا وجهه وكل نفس ذائقة الموت وقال كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذي الجلال والإكرام سبحان من لا يخفى عليه اختلاف النيات ولا يعظمونه مآسيه عباد في الخلوات سبحان الله الذي منه خلقة العباد وإليه المعاد فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Mu'mineen, today is one of those very, very sad occasions in the history of Islam. We are here to commemorate the passing away of our eighth Imam, Imam Ridha alayhi salatu wassalam. The life of Imam Ridha can be looked from different angles. And today we'll look at one very different angle in a very short time that we have here. And that we'll do in light of this verse of the Quran. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Fas'alu ahli dhikr in kuntum la ta'lamun. This is from chapter 16, verse number 43. In which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us one of those commands, a command which is very, very pertinent and very, very important, and which is of universal application. And that is, if you do not know, ask those who are people of the reminder. That is, if you do not know. Now, it's a common human behavior that if one does not know something, one has to find out from somebody who knows. Different professions, of course, if you are a sick person and you need medical advice, then you will go and seek it from a doctor, from those who are expert in that field. By the same token, if there are those mas'ala, those questions which are so difficult to answer and which affect men's day-to-day life, then therefore there has to be somebody who is expert, in the sense that expert in all fields of disciplines. And therefore here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about those who are reminders, meaning the verses, if you look at the context in which these verses are, is for those who have been selected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and have been given that divine guidance, so that they are in a position to advise and give information to anyone who is stuck and who cannot get information from any other area. And therefore, when Ma'asumin were asked about these verses, they also say that these verses here, with zikr here, refers to Quran, and those who are people of zikr are the prophets, our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, and Ma'asumin from the progeny of the Prophet. And one of those Ahlul Dhikr then is our eighth Imam, Imam Ridha alayhi salatu wassalam. And like all the other Imams from Ahlul Bayt, the life in which they led was full of challenges, full of difficulties. And their guidance, in spite of all those restrictions, all those challenges, the guidance was always there. And one of the challenges that he faced was the ruler of the time, Ma'mun al-Rashid. Ma'mun al-Rashid was different in the sense that he had seen that all the strategies, all the efforts that were made by the previous rulers from Umayyad and from Abbasid, their strategies did not work. Their violence and their way in which they tried to eliminate the message of Ahlul Bayt, they all failed. So he came out with a new strategy. And the strategy was that of apparently of love and humility, inviting the Imam to come and take over from him. So it's all in the guise. He wanted to make, as what is happening today in the world of politics, those rulers who can serve the superpower, they're always welcome. They're given so far as they serve the purpose of those superpowers. Once they have been used and they are of no more of any use, they are discarded. And that was the policy of Ma'mun al-Rashid, to invite Imam Ridha alayhi salatu wasalam, take him away from Medina. Imam Musa ibn Ja'far, when he had passed away, when the eighth Imam took over as the Imam of the time, at that time the Imam was 30 years of age, and he had another about 25 years of age to serve Islam. And his teachings in Medina was such that Ma'mun al-Rashid knew that one of the ways to end the influence of this Imam is to get out of Medina. Therefore, there was a strategy that he brought to Medina and wanted to prove that yes, he was a great person, like any other person. He was knowledgeable, but after all, he was human and he had limitations. And therefore, one of the strategies was this question of inviting people from all faiths and also from the medical field, bring them together, put the Imam in a position where they would show apparently that after all he had knowledge, but his knowledge was limited. And that is the reason why you will find that, and the scholars have come with 5 scenarios where people ask questions. We all live in a society and we always ask questions. Scholars have come with 5 different scenarios. If you read one salawat, we'll very briefly mention these scenarios. Number 1, it's like somebody does not know and he genuinely wants to know. Somebody wants to know something and he goes to a person who knows the answers and he asks him the question. That is one scenario. There is another scenario where a person knows the answer but wants to confirm, to hear it also from somebody else. Second opinion, if you want to. He knows the answer, but he still wants to have somebody who is another expert and confirm that and validate what he thinks is the answer. Then there is a third situation where somebody wants to test somebody else. He knows the answer, but he is put in a position where he wants to test if this person really knows what he is talking about. He's been given a good job. That's why you go for interview sometimes. They ask questions. It's not that they don't know the answer. Only wants to find out if you know the answer. So that is a third scenario. Then there is a fourth scenario when the person knows the answer and apparently thinks the person is going to answer does not know the answer, and he wants to prove to him that he doesn't know the answer. So he pretends not to know. He's asking question, knowing that the other person does not know the answer, and he is going to prove to others that he doesn't know the answer. And the fifth scenario is this person who his intention is, whether the person knows the answer or the person doesn't know the answer, I will humiliate and I will humble him out of jealousy, out of whatever it is. And therefore he will start ask questions and questions and questions and turn this way and that way and finally give that impression that that person does not have that knowledge, that level of knowledge with others think he does. This is the position in which Ma'mun wanted to praise Imam Ridha alayhi salatu wassalam. If you read one salawat. Therefore, he invites people from all faiths. Why? That they should come and debate. Debate means you converse, you talk with each other, you ask questions, call them, and make sure that the Imam gets stuck. That these people, who would accept his madhab is wrong, his religion is wrong? No one would accept it. Ultimately, they will reach a position where the Imam would not be able to convince them, and Ma'mun will say, see, Ridha is very, very intelligent, is very good person, but his knowledge, after all, is limited in certain areas only. That was the intention. And therefore, it is related, and this is from Uyun al-Ridha, this is from Sheikh Sadduq alayhi rahma's work, in which he is quoting this situation in which Ma'mun al-Rashid decides to call these people Rasul Jalut, who is a Jewish rabbi. Then he wants to call Jaslik, who is a bishop, a Roman Catholic bishop. Then he calls a Zoroastrian leader. Then he calls all these people. He decides to call them to have a discussion with the Imam. And he informs the Imam just one night before. Just one night before these discussions, he informs him. He tells him, tomorrow you are going to have a discussion. Would you mind having a discussion? No. See, this is the way things are working. Would you mind? What would the Imam say? Sir, I'll have it. The person who was next to him, his name also is mentioned, Ali bin Hassan bin Muhammad. He listens to this messenger. When messenger goes away, he asks, Ibn Rasulillah, why is he calling you? You see, briefly, the tradition goes as, I know why he's calling me. I know why he's calling me. But he will not be successful in his mission. And therefore, this Sheikh Zadduq mentioned this long conversation with all these discussion that goes on. There's no time to go into all this here. Apparently, therefore, the Imam talks with him, and Imam had told that person who is a Roman Catholic, I will talk not from Quran, I'll talk from the Bible, from their books, and I will talk to them in their language, in Latin, it will not be Arabic. And the Jew, I will also talk what is in their books. I will use their own arguments, and I'll use the language in which they are familiar. And for the Zoroastrian, I will also talk in the way they have in their structures, in the scriptures, and I will use Farsi, Persian language. And they will see how it's going to work. And that's exactly how it worked. If you look at those discussions, you will be surprised the way Imam alayhi salatu wasalam deals with them. Answers each question from their sources in their language, and they are surprised. How did you have this knowledge? How do you speak? Yes. And ultimately, he convinced that if he doesn't convince them, at least he silenced them. There comes a point that it's not the Imam who is silent. It comes a point when they become silent. They cannot pursue any. And it is said that this Rasul Jalul, and one of them, just like, for example, he said, you know what? I have never ever seen a Muslim speaker or scholar of your stature and of your knowledge. This is what Imam alayhi salatu wasalam dealt with these challenges of his time. And it is not, sometimes when you do a good job, it is your friend who appreciates it. Your enemies will not. They always find a loophole. Oh yes, he's good, but, it's this Imam going through all these discussions. His friend, Abu Salt al-Harawi, he says that I have never seen any person who has this kind of knowledge, the way the Imam shows his knowledge in these discussions. But that was his friend. There is a courtier, somebody who sits in the court. He's from the royal family. And he says that I have never seen a person who answers all these questions that is asked. This knowledge comes from the Quran. He answers all those questions, Bible, whatever, uses the Bible quotation, but the knowledge, the ilm is coming all from Quran. Never seen. And this is not a friend. And then you have Mamun al-Rashid himself. Ja al-haq. Haq, truth will always triumph. Even your enemies will ultimately, one way or another, will praise you. And this is what he does. He says that I have never seen anyone who is as learned as this person. So this is the gift of that Allah has given to Imams of Ahlul Bayt. And one of the things which I will recommend you before we go to the second sermon, in which we'll look at some of the advice of the Imam. If you have time, listen to the majlis which you recited here yesterday on Imamat and the Imams and who they were and the knowledge that they had. Listen to that. That we don't hear very much, especially in this age where everything, when you talk about people, doubt. Or could this have happened? Or this could have, trying to minimize, thinking the same way as Mamun al-Rashid had wanted us to do. That is, consider this as a great person, but not as great as we would like them to say, to like them to be. So this is what happened during the time of Imam Rida. And ultimately, when things went wrong with Mamun al-Rashid, Imam was finally martyred. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal asr, innal insana lafi khusr, illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Wa sallallahu Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi alladhi la ilaha illa huwal halimul kareem. Ghafiruz zam wa qabilut tawb wa huwal ghafurur rahim. سبحان من سبقت ورحمته غضبا وسط اليدين بالرحمة. Mu'mineen, this is a day of rahmah, but as we say, this is also a day of mourning for us. The day in which this great personality was martyred, and martyred far away from his house, far away from where he lived. But then this Imam, there's a lot that we have to learn from him. Last Friday, Sheikh was talking about wisdom, that how wisdom is one of the keys to understand our lives and to deal with the challenges of our lives in light of wisdom that he was quoting from the verses of Quran. So today, very briefly, the wisdom that Imam alayhi salatu was mentioned by Imam Ridha, that the qualities, and this is for us all, for you to be wise, for you to use your intellect, for you to be on a straight path, there are certain things that you have to adopt, make it part of your lives. And that will bring about the spiritual growth. Therefore, Imam mentioned 10 things. Each one of them is a subject by itself. I'll just mention this, and as I mentioned in your lives, and you, when I say you, I mean myself first. Try to see how many of these qualities we already have in us, and those which we don't have, how can we cultivate them in us. If you read one salawat, I very fast mention this, and then we'll start our prayers, inshallah. First and foremost, Imam says that a person who is wise, a person whose intellect is intact, he says he will be somebody from his goodness is expected. When you see that person, you don't feel that there is anything bad that is going to come from that person. That person emanates goodness. Imam says that is one sign of an intelligent, of a person of intellect. Then the Imam says the second thing. So this is a person who shows goodness in him. Now, the second thing is second quality is that person from whom you don't expect any evil. These two characteristics are very much related. It is possible to have somebody who is very good. When you look at him, say, you're a good person. But you're not sure, like he shows goodness. When he looks at you, he gives a smile. He's a good person. But you do not know down the road whether this person, that smile is like that of Mamun al-Rashid, that something else is hidden behind it. Therefore, the second quality Imam says that not only do you see goodness in him, but also you, through your experience or whatever, do not expect any evil from him. That his goodness is goodness. He's not one of those people who, when he sees you, praises you, and when you turn your back, he laughs at you, he stabs at you at the back. This is what Imam says should not be there. Expect a good thing from somebody. Then the third thing that he says is that this person appreciates the work of others, even if it is very small. Somebody does a very small favor to you, appreciate it. This is what we teach to our children, don't we? Anything that happens in the family, somebody does a small thing, say thank you. Imam teaches us that even a small favor that somebody does to you, appreciate it. And again, it doesn't happen in this center, maybe in other centers. We come in when we have a food and niyad, there's so much salt in it. Yes. Niyaz of Ahl al-Bayt have come to eat here. Eat whatever is there. And if you find that something is, that's okay. And it says that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and some say it is Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, that somebody came there with some fruit. and offered it to the Prophet, or it was Imam Ali. And the Prophet took it, ate it, and did not share it with those who are with him. For those who are there, find say, Ya Rasulullah, this is contrary to what you always do. When you get such things, you always share with us. Why didn't you share with us today? The person who had brought the food was not there. Then the reply was, the fruit was so sour. If I had given to any one of you, you would comment. And this would hurt this person. See, this is the message that Imam Rada is. Anybody who does a favor, even a small thing, say thank you to him. Appreciate it. Then the Imam said that underestimate, if you do a job, you know what, I gave a donation today of $100,000, you know that. If you do a good job, I couldn't do much. Do not overestimate the goodness that you do. Appreciate that of others, and also at the same time, do not boast of the things that you have done. And this is, again, it doesn't happen in our communities, but when people give the charity, they want to be recognized. There are cases where they give charities and you forget to mention the names. But people write here the names, not here again, somewhere else. And then they get angry at you. They say, I gave my money, and why was my name not mentioned? Yeah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you for whoever his reward. So, but my name has to be mentioned. I gave the money. It should be mentioned. So these are the small things. But Imam says, these are the things that matter in your life. The next one Imam says is, he does not get tired approaching people to help. When people ask for help, whatever help he can give, he doesn't get tired. Sometimes we get tired. Somebody comes and asks help today, yesterday. Every day Basi is coming here. You know, it's time. Now it's time. We should try to help as much as you can. And if you cannot do it, don't do it. But don't tell them. You know, this is the time, last time you're coming to me. I remember in Africa we used to have problems of sending our children to school, so I was one of the person who knew the principal, so I used to take some of the children and say, please admit them, please admit them, please. It was for free, they weren't paying anything. So one day the principal gets angry and tells me, every day, every day you bring these children here. I said, no. Now this is the end of it. She was angry, and one of the way to get things done is to get somebody angry. If somebody gets angry, he will do that work for you. So out of anger, I didn't walk out. I just sat there. Finally, she comes, Sakarbai comes and tells me, okay, now I'll admit this child. But I knew my limitations. Now onwards, I cannot go. Why? Because now it is difficult. Then the next one is that he is never tired of asking for more knowledge. He wants more and more knowledge. There is no end to knowledge. I'll move fast. I know I'm taking a lot of your time. He prefers poverty for the sake of Allah than opulence. If there is a choice that he has to make, that I will become poor, I will gain a lot from this, what I have to do, but I am going to disappoint Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is not contrary to the wishes of Allah, then that person will not take that, will prefer that poverty to that paucity. The next Imam says is that he prefers to have that knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would make him clear and will make him closer to him. The next one is this person prefers obscurity than fame. That because of the things that he does, there is that temptation for him to ask for fame. You come and you say, I am this person, And if people don't give you the respect, that you are offended, that after all I am this, that, and the other. And how come then people don't give me that respect? Therefore he says this person prefers obscurity, that people don't know him. Then people should know who he is. And the last one is, then he says that the Imam was quiet. He paused here. He didn't say. Then they asked, what is that last one, Imam? The 10th one. Then Imam says, everyone in society he considers to be better than him. Everybody in society, when he looks at them, he says, this person is better than me. This is a security from what? From arrogance. These are the things then that we have to learn from this Imam of the time. This is the Imam, as we have said, mentioned the Ahlul Bayt, and we have been told about who they are in verses of the Quran. And therefore today is the day on which we sit here, talk about whatever we learn from them, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us on the safety of the challenges and problems of this world. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وعلى إمام المسلمين وقائد الغر المحجلين أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب عليه الصلاة والسلام وعلى سيدة نساء العالمين وبزأة خاتم النبيين سيدتنا فاطمة بنت رسول الله صلوات الله عليها وعلى الحسن والحسين وعلي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة القائم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على مولانا صاحب الزمان والسلام عليكم صاحب الزمان ورحمة الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والآسر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الصلاح الصلاح الصلاح.